inductee into the Australian Survivor Hall of Fame in 2021 is the third player from Season 1 to be inducted, as well as the first ever runner-up to be inducted. Sciona Browne lasted every single one of the 39 days in Whalers Way, navigating her way through the game by using a mixture of strong alliances, social prowess, challenge strength, and a likeable personality that often gets overlooked when it comes to the most liked players in the history of Australian Survivor. This is indeed backed up by the fact that Sciona only received one vote against her in the entire game and never was targeted to be voted out. Her tight bond with the eventual winner of Season 1 and fellow Hall of Famer Rob Dixon has gone down in the history of Australian Survivor as one of the most unbreakable alliances that has ever been seen, and despite having played the game 20 years ago, Sciona would still be a formidable threat on the show should she ever get a chance to play again. Sciona received a lot of love from the expert panel in 2021 Hall of Fame voting, as well as a strong fan vote, and her induction cements her legacy as one of the most memorable and loved players to have ever played Australian Survivor. And to celebrate her induction into the Australian Survivor Hall of Fame, I am honoured to be joined by the incredible Sciona Browne with me today to talk a little bit more about it. Sciona, first of all, it's a pleasure to be speaking to you today, and congratulations on your induction into the Hall of Fame.
Thanks, Ben. That's it's pretty awesome.
What does it mean to you to be inducted into the Australian Survivor Hall of Fame?
Look, it's first of all, I guess it's a bit surreal. We're 20 years down the track, but I loved it. I loved the challenge. I loved the game, and I loved really being out there with some people that I bonded with very strongly, but mixing with a whole different mix of personalities. So I guess this is what was sort of a culmination in a way of coming back to that and revisiting it. I've been thinking a lot about Rob and my bond with him. It's humbling and honouring, and I'm thrilled, really.
A lot of people might remember your famous video you sent in, your application video, where you appeared to eat some dog poo, of course, among many other things of that. Did you think that when you filmed that video that you would get on, that this would give you a good shot of actually making it onto that very first season of Survivor?
Look, everything about how I approached it was focused on getting selected. You don't know, and it wasn't until I guess after it finished that we were told that there was 8,500 applications. So I was definitely trying to grab the selectors' attention, and I think picking up what was in reality a joke dog poo and sort of dog poo.
I'm glad you clarified that. That was my next question, to confirm that wasn't dog poo.
People have asked me, not recently, of course, but after I got back from Survivor, there were a few people that came up and said, "Did you really eat that dog poo?" Mind you, if it had meant getting to the end, and unfortunately I didn't have to eat dog poo, although the food challenge in that Survivor was pretty horrible anyway, fish eyes amongst other horrible things to eat. I don't know. I was pretty keen to get to the end.
Season 1 arguably had maybe the toughest conditions we've ever seen on an Australian Survivor. Just how hard was it out there in Whalers Way during your season?
I think it had a very Australian flavour. So it was out there about, making it very challenging and making it through to the end. I remember that the SAS commando that was an advisor to Channel 9 saying that as far as he was concerned, it was the toughest Survivor anywhere in the world, certainly been done up to that stage. And in terms of food, I haven't seen anything, not that I haven't followed every Survivor series since then, but I do remember a challenge that Katie Gold won where it was a reward challenge, and the reward was chicken or vegetable soup.
Yep.
Now, Katie won that challenge, and when it came to getting back to camp, Katie selected the chicken, and they arrived with a quarter of roast chicken. and all hell broke loose because everybody's, partly in support of Katie, was saying, well, hang on a minute, you said a chicken. They said, no, we didn't say a chicken, we said chicken. So when you look at the reward challenges and the sorts of banquets that get offered to survivors in, let's call it modern Survivor, I think we did it pretty tough. Well, we had to, catch some of our food. We had to walk a couple of kilometres just to get water. All of that sort of stuff. Yeah, I think it was
different days. You alternated, didn't you? Having to one day you could get food, the other day you get the water. And to clarify, in terms of just the banquets and the feasts, when you merged, you got a couple of bags of Lay's chips. These days they get a whole freaking feast. So, I mean, gosh, like, I'm sure Lay's chips were great back then, Sciona, but I mean, you'd kill for a Hungry Jack's feast basically by celebrating your merge.
Well, I lost 10 kilos in the, 37 days?
39 days, yeah.
39 days, yeah, 10 kilos. So they gave us a ration of rice every day, which was the minimum ration for prisoners of war.
Incredible.
Yeah.
That's absolutely incredible.
It was pretty tough.
Yeah, just a bit. I mentioned in the introduction that you went through the entire game getting only one vote from Lance, of course, when he got voted out. How do you think you managed to do that, Sciona? Because it's a pretty mean feat to be able to last every single day and only have one vote against you.
Look, I'm sure I wasn't the only one in Survivor that did this or does this even now, but I did do a lot of research and before I went in, and I had a mate who was in the SAS. One of the areas that I was most concerned about was my people skills. And we talked about the SAS and the grey man approach to things, where you endeavour to be invisible. So I was deliberately not causing any sort of ruckus or any sort of confrontation. I tried to get on with everybody, and by sort of being the grey man, staying in the background as much as I could, I just don't think I ruffled any feathers until right at the end when I upset Katie.
Just a little bit. We obviously talked a bit to Katie about that last year in her induction. So some of the great memories too I remember from your season as well is just some of those confessionals where you were really open and honest about your feelings. There was that one where you kind of implied you're almost like a Peter Pan and just kind of just that real personal connection you were really giving the audience. What was the reaction like from people who were watching that? Did a lot of people come up to you and say they related with you with some of those sort of things that you were confessing during your confessionals?
Not that I can, nothing jumps out at me, Ben. I think honesty and being really real is the way I operate generally. I know that one of the things that was difficult was lying to Sophie. So I think pretty much through the whole thing I got away with subterfuge and deflection rather than... But Sophie at one point eyeballed me and asked me a direct question, and I had to... I just lied. Yeah, I'd like to.
Part of the game, unfortunately, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. So I hope. Look, I hope that my time out there was real. You know, what you see is what you get with me. It's,
It's obviously no doubt difficult to get right to the very end, 39 days, get to that final tribal council and come up short by finishing second, but. Can you reflect on that now 20 years later, Sciona, and almost be proud of that achievement that you did make it to the end? Because as much as you would have liked to, and I'm sure Still Doubt would have liked to have come away the winner, there's only been a handful of runners-up who can say that they've made it to the end as well. So do you at least take on board something as a proud achievement for lasting the entire length of the show, even if you didn't win?
Absolutely. I mean, I went out there with one focus, and that was to win. Of course, you don't know who you're going to meet and what sort of bonds you're going to form. Rob and I were very close, and he had, a compelling reason for needing the the prize money. That didn't influence me at all in the tribal council. Of course, looking back, you could say, "Oh well, I wish I'd said this, and maybe if I'd changed my pitch over there, it would have made a difference." But Rob was incredibly likeable. I mean, who didn't like him? Probably, well, I can think of perhaps one person, but
Katie wasn't too keen with him at the end.
Look, he played a brilliant game. Let's face it.
Yeah.
Rob deserved to win. He deserved to win just on the way he played the game. He had everything really. He was strong physically. He was very strategic, and he had good people skills. I wasn't in the least bit disappointed to lose to Rob.
If you're going to lose to someone, you want to lose basically to someone like Rob Dixon, essentially,
and someone that you formed a bond with and you really, really like. He and I were very close right from day one. I mean, we had similar backgrounds. He flew helicopters. I flew fixed wings. We marched through and worked together right through that whole Survivor time, as you know, quite close. And we went, even afterwards, of course, that remained.
Which, as I said in the beginning, one of the most formidable duos I think we've ever seen. I mean, forming that alliance on day one, and there you are sitting at the very end. It's a complete rarity, really, in modern Survivor, how that kind of happens.
Yeah.
Speaking of modern Survivor, I mentioned in the beginning too that you would do very well, Sciona. I mean, I don't want to mention your age, but I mean, 20 years on, you're still as fit and healthy and as strong as you were when you played in Whalers Way. How do you think you would fare if you were to put in an application, or if Channel 10 wake up and maybe realise that your season exists and invite you back on to play another go? Do you think you could give it another fair shot and maybe go one step further to win?
Look, it is a different game. It's more aligned, I think, with the American style. Physically, I'm as fit or fitter than I was at 49. Strategically, I think I've still got all of that skill set. I don't know how I'd go with all the, there's a lot of there's a lot of interplay between all of the survivors. I don't know how I'd go with that. Maybe I couldn't do the grey man thing again. I got away with it in 20 years ago. I mean, I'd love to have a crack.
Yeah. Well, we'd love to see you again. And this is the travesty I think a lot of people find when it comes to the fact that All-Stars came around and we sadly didn't see anybody from your season, of course, being invited back because, as you say, I mean, physically you're not going to struggle at all out there. And even with the way the game is developed, you'd almost be like a new player because this is the thing. A lot of people probably wouldn't remember your season, so they're not going to remember how you played and what you did and everything along those lines. So you'd have a bit of an advantage there.
I think I should take you on as my agent and get you to go and speak to Harold Ben. Thank you for those. Thank you for those kind words.
Connections. I'll make sure that we'll put them through there. But as I said, 20 years since you played. Obviously, a lot has happened in 20 years, Sciona. But just an update for people who are watching this today. What are you up to today?
Well, I'm still doing all the, as you said, all the fitness stuff. I cycle, mountain bike and road bike. I'm involved, I guess, from a business perspective. I'm not really. I'm working with a group of really young data scientists on some machine learning and artificial intelligence stuff, which is fantastic. It's fascinating. I really enjoy being around them. I've got a trip planned, COVID willing, to Japan next year to trek on the west coast of Japan. So I'm very involved in those sorts of physical. I've just done a mountain bike ride on the Mundabiddi trail here in Western Australia. Very physically involved in being outdoors and doing those sorts of things. I do some volunteering. So, yeah, I managed to keep myself busy, Ben.
I was going to say, you sound very, very busy still. So if Channel 10 does come calling, you might have to free the schedule potentially to see how that all plays out. Sciona, it's been an absolute pleasure to be able to recognise you today for your contributions to Australian Survivor and induct you into the Australian Survivor Hall of Fame on behalf of myself, the expert panel, the audience, everybody. Many congratulations for your induction. We've got some goodies that we'll ship off to you as well as part of this celebration, but really appreciate you having a bit of a chat to reminisce about your time on Survivor and celebrating this occasion of you being inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Well, I guess my thanks to you, Ben, and to Matt and to everybody involved in the Hall of Fame. It is an honour, and it's wonderful. So thank you very much.